How you doing, guys? Dr. Nathan Thompson here with Exemplify Health Center. Happy Tuesday evening. Hey, if you're jumping on right now, make sure you say hello. Give me a wave. Give me a thumbs up. And leave me a comment or a question. So if you read the description, I talked about hip replacements, knee replacements, and shoulder replacement, and why on earth is there this enormous explosion of joint replacements that are happening right now. In fact, I read a statistic that said that by 2030, it is going to increase, like explode even more. And in the last 20 years, joint replacements have increased 600%, if you can believe that. So how you doing, Carrie? Thanks for popping on. So let's talk about hip replacements, knee replacements, or any kind of joint replacement for that matter, and why I'm going to talk about one thing that your doctor is not checking, or your family doctor that you've had for your whole entire life hasn't warned you on why you're headed towards joint replacement surgery, but some other issues going on as well. So let's talk about hip replacements, knee replacements, shoulder replacements. So here's the first thing. So we're seeing so many people have knee replacements, hip replacements, and their lives are so much better. Like there's so much less pain that they say. They say it is a miracle it took place, and I get it. I understand it. But I'm going to talk to you why there is a long-term consequence with having some kind of joint replacement. The reason why I actually came up with this idea to talk about it tonight was I was scrolling through Facebook, which I don't like to do a whole lot, but something caught my attention. I had a friend who, as I was scrolling, I saw that he posted he was looking for an orthopedic surgeon to help with his shoulder. And so he was looking for some recommendations. So I was like, so as I started looking at all of the recommendations and all the comments, here's what I saw. I saw, go to so-and-so because they did my knee and he is fantastic. Go to so-and-so, they did my hip and he is fantastic. Go to so-and-so, he did my shoulder and he is fantastic. And all of these people were talking about all of the joint replacements that they actually got. And so I was curious. And then so I started to look on their profiles and whatnot, and I noticed something that was similar with all of those different profiles. And it was one thing is that I knew that all of them probably had something called type 2 diabetes. How you doing, Amber? Thanks for popping on. So here's what's interesting about this, about joint replacements and things like that. So here's why someone would need some kind of joint replacement that I'm not going to talk about tonight. Number one is some people are going to need a joint replacement if they have had some kind of overt trauma to a joint. I'll give you an example. So when I was 20 years old, I played basketball and I had an ankle injury. I basically dislocated my ankle. Terrible pain. And basically I ruptured like every ligament into my ankle. And so like those ankles, when the ligaments, when they're separated and they're torn, they are not going to grow back. So I had an ankle that was just unstable and mushy. And so when I would try to do something on it, because it was so unstable, everything, the cartilage and things like that was just wearing down. So if you've had some kind of trauma like that, like some kind of dislocation to the knee or to the hip or to the ankle or even to the shoulder, then chances are if you've ruptured ligaments, those ligaments are going to be ruptured, the joint is going to be unstable, and if you don't do something to kind of reconstruct it and try to stabilize it, then the joint's going to wear down a lot sooner. But I'm not talking about that. The second thing too, and this is what we do a lot of times in chiropractic, is actually make sure that people have even weight bearing. Because if you've ever noticed, if it was just because you're getting older and you had a knee replacement at 65, and if it was because you're getting older, then you should technically have both knees replaced at the same time. So there's obviously something biomechanically happening. And many times this can be just as easy as putting someone on two scales and they see that they're 15 pounds off on one side versus the other. The heavier side is going to break down a lot sooner. That's a pretty simple solution if you can actually figure that out, because you just need to rebalance the body, and that's where actually chiropractic comes in. In fact, I had a woman who came to me like 12 years ago. She said, doctor wants to do joint replacement surgery. And so we actually did a leg length x-ray, saw that she had a 7 millimeter difference, started to correct what was happening in the knee and the pelvis, and balanced her weight out, and 12 years later never had a knee replacement. And thank God that she never got it, because I'm going to talk to you at the end why knee replacements or artificial joint replacements can be damaging to the body. But this is the third reason. This is the one that I actually want to go over. And the third reason is this. It's your blood sugar, it's your insulin, and it's something that's called ages. So I want you to write that down. You can look that up online. The wonderful thing about the internet is there's tons of information. It's your library at your fingertips. This is why I always laugh when someone says, "Where'd you get that, on the internet?" And I'm like, you do realize that the PubMed, which is every archive research journal on the planet, can be accessed on the internet. So yes, it's like saying 20 years ago, someone doesn't like what you say and they say, "Where'd you get that, on microfiche at the library?" Yes, that's where I used to have to go write term papers and do my research. But the great thing is it's literally at your fingertips. So getting back to my point is ages. It's called advanced glycation end stages. And it's this idea of glycation. So here's what happens. I want you to know, if your doctor is really on top of things, they shouldn't just be measuring your blood sugar to look at your diabetes risk, because blood sugar is can vary from time of day, stress levels, and things like that. There's a better test that we test. We test a lot of different markers for type 2 diabetes, but one of them that we test is actually called A1C. So it's your A1C hemoglobin. Now, the reason why they measure this is because they're looking at your red blood cells, and they're basically looking at the degradation of the blood cells that is caused by this advanced glycation end stages. So basically, they're looking at the amount of sugar that has attached to your red blood cells, and so the more sugar that attaches, the higher this A1C level is. So if you are in the high 5s, low 6s, you're a type 2 diabetic. And we've actually have helped people lower their A1C levels, which is basically their 90-day average glucose, blood glucose. We've helped them to lower it from 5.7 down to 4.9 in about 90 days. So they're basically looking at the degradation of a cell that is due to high blood sugar, chronically high blood sugar. So here's what happens is when you have high blood sugar, I am Google. Nice. When you have high blood sugar and you have high amounts of insulin, that high blood sugar will actually attach and damage soft tissues. So what is soft tissues? Well, this is why it damages your blood vessels, because think of blood vessels as soft tissue connective tissues. This is why there is heart attacks, heart disease, and type 2 diabetes and high insulin levels go hand in hand. Here's another thing that high blood sugar levels actually cause, and I bet you didn't know this: cataracts. So when someone says, "I have cataracts," I automatically know you have a blood sugar issue. And so because those advanced glycation end stages damages the lens, because the lens is connective tissue. Now, what is connective tissue? The main component of connective tissue is called collagen. So collagen makes up your connective tissue, it makes up your ligaments, it makes up the discs of your spine, it makes up the cartilage around the knee, collagen makes up your bone, collagen makes up your skin, which is also why people with type 2 diabetes and blood sugar levels that are out of control, this is why they look so much older. Now, I bet you guys didn't know that I'm actually 74 years of age. I bet you didn't know that. And if I say something funny, feel free to give me a thumbs up, all right? So anyway, advanced glycation end stages. So here's what happens, is that high blood sugar can now start to damage your joint capsules, can damage the cartilage around the joint, can damage the cartilage that's in between the knees, damage the cartilage that actually lines the bone. So when that is happening, that is going to cause things like increased stiffness, increase brittleness, increase pain, decrease collagen formation, and basically now what happens is you have a chronically painful, degenerated joint. Then you add the stimulus of having it misalign or previous traumas and things like that, and now you have a recipe. With having chronically elevated blood sugar, you have a recipe for having a joint that now becomes completely non-functional. So what happens with a lot of people, rather than actually start to control their blood sugar, try to realign the actual area and start moving it again to start nourishing the joint, you know where they run? They run to the doctor, because the easiest thing to do is to rip out the joint and to put in a new one. And here's the thing, when they have that done, they feel better. Now, just to be sure, I'm not talking about people who have had overt trauma or anything like that. Then yes, you might have needed a joint replacement, but did you work on improving the alignment? Did you work on lowering your insulin levels? Did you work on doing all of those things first? Because you're seeing more and more people replace their joints at an earlier age, which leads me into why you do not want a joint replacement, or you want to have as minimal as possible. Okay, so has to do with putting any kind of foreign body into the body. So any kind of foreign substance into the body. So this is why even in my teeth, I needed to get quote unquote an implant, but I didn't get an implant because I did not want a metal inside of my body. One of the reasons why is they already have a little bit of metal when they had to reconstruct my ankle, and I don't want any more metal. Because as soon as you put a foreign body into your body, and this can be some kind of metal screw, this can be some kind of implant, this can be a metal joint. Ladies, this can also be a breast implant. Anytime that you put something foreign into the body, your immune system says, you don't belong here, and it immediately tries to start breaking it down. I want you to think about that for a second. The immune system is going to start to break it down. Anything that doesn't belong in the body, this also includes undigested proteins in the form of food allergies. Your immune system says, you don't belong here. And now it starts working to break down that foreign body. And think about it. It starts to break down those metals. And where can those metals continue to end up if the immune system is breaking it down? This is any foreign body that you're putting into the body. And you don't actually have to look very far, as if you actually Google autoimmune reactions after joint replacement. So here you have people that are getting joint replacements that are already sick because their blood sugar is out of control, their insulin levels are high, high inflammatory levels already, and now they're putting foreign objects into their body, and Lord knows how that's causing an increase in immune system reactions. And it's making them sicker. So guys, just remember this. Keep the ones God gave you, because as far as I'm concerned, is that you, version 1.0, is always the best. You don't need a version 2.0 if you learn to take care of the first version that God gave you. So hey guys, remember this about joint replacements, is that sometimes you need it when you have a massive trauma to the area. But then number two, what you have to start looking at is, why is the body not balanced? This is where chiropractic comes in. And the third thing is what is your blood sugar levels? Make sure that you check your A1C, because if your A1C is out of control, I guarantee you your joints are becoming stiff. They are not regenerating, they're degenerating. And as soon as you can get that blood sugar back under control, the longer you're going to have the joints that God gave you. So guys, Tuesday night, I'm on my way to pick up my son. He had his first basketball game tonight. Obviously, I couldn't make it because it was at 5 o'clock. But I'm going to go meet up with him. We're going to talk about the game, and we're going to talk about how he did. So, guys, I hope you have a good evening. Hey, make sure you share this, too, with someone who's had a joint replacement. Because if they have, then they need to do some things in order to keep their other joints, but also to make sure that they're supporting their immune system, because their immune system right now is probably going haywire. So make sure that you like it, share it with someone that you know, and if you're watching this on replay, go ahead and put replay so that I know you're watching it after the fact. Guys, be well. Thanks for watching. Have a great night. We'll see you.